So recently, there's been reporting about how we're seeing Hispanic, Latino individuals gravitate towards some of these white supremacy groups and these other groups that, express bigotry. Why are we seeing this?
Yes, we are beginning to see a wave of Latino and other people of color who are attracted to white nationalism. This is happening for several reasons. The first is that white nationalism grows more mainstream. The more that the federal government and state government refuse to address the underlying conditions upon which white nationalists are exploiting, right? The fear of demographic change, economic pressure, the more the white nationalist movement continues to advance its power. That makes it attractive to folks who are concerned about change in our society right now. The second is that there is an intentional recruitment of people of color by white nationalist leadership into its alt-right coalition in order to defend itself from the very real charges of racism and political violence that revolves around the white nationalist movement. The third is simply this: that many Latinos in the United States identify as white, not with their indigenous or Afro roots. And many of them, because of their conservative politics, believe that the white nationalist movement aligns with their values. It's not the case. And it means at the end of the day, civil society and the civil rights community within the Latino community need to do a better job of educating Latinos about the dangers of white nationalists. Let us not forget that white nationalists for decades have used political violence and hate crimes to intimidate the very Latino community that it's recruiting from now.
Let's talk about that messaging. Is there any specific messaging that could work for people who are Latino and Hispanic who are at risk at gravitating towards these groups?
Yes, we should remember, right, that these white nationalist organizations are the same organizations that created an environment that encouraged an individual to walk into a Walmart in El Paso and open fire on Latinos. It is that same rhetoric that led to the death of 8-year-old Briziana Flores, a young Latina in Arizona who was targeted, her and her family, for physical violence and death from militia movements, right? The anti-immigrant movement and the white nationalist movement in this country have a very thin barrier between the two, and we often see them at each other's mobilizations. The Latino community cannot believe the hype. The white nationalist movement seeks to remove them from the United States of America in their ethnic cleansing plans.
Here in the Denver area, we've had several Proud Boys that were pretty active over the last several years. And when you monitor some of their social media posts, they'd like to say, "I'm not a bigot. I am Latino. I am Hispanic." Obviously, that doesn't absolve them from their behavior.
No, it does not. Who we are has less to say about our values than the things that we do. And we have seen a number of Latino leaders, from Nick Fuentes, who has taken space in our country to promote anti-Semitism, right, and outright forms of bigotry. I also remember Alex Michael Ramos in 2018, I believe, a Puerto Rican resident of Georgia who was sentenced by Virginia District Court to 6 years in prison for his role in beating a Black man in Charlottesville, Virginia, following the Unite the Right rally. Look, let's be clear. In a time of great change, people will grab on to those things that they believe will provide some stability. But the Latino community, the Hispanic community, is actually a rich and diverse community. The way that it moves forward in our society is by moving forward together. And white nationalists seek to divide the Hispanic community itself, forcing it to deny its Afro-Caribbean, right, and indigenous roots.